NASCAR Hall of Fame voting happens today. SMI says there's no plans to remove Dover from the NASCAR schedule, and Trackhouse may have just dropped, no exaggeration, the two best throwback schemes we've ever seen. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Before we get started, I have some cool stuff coming up at Darlington that I'm going to announce in just a moment. But first, this episode is sponsored by Roxor. Roxor is the title sponsor of the Xfinity race this weekend at Darlington, the Roxor 200. A rugged, no-nonsense side-by-side Roxor is a tribute to Mahindra's long history of assembling durable and powerful vehicles going all the way back to 1947. The Mahindra Roxor features a steel body on a box steel frame, a Mahindra 2.5-liter turbo engine, and a heavy-duty transmission. Be sure to tune in to the Roxor 200 this Saturday, May 7th at Darlington Raceway. I'm going to be filming some cool stuff with Roxor this weekend, so it's great to have them on the show. And one more thing before we get to all the news, if you're going to be at Darlington this weekend, I'll be hanging out at the Roxor booth just outside the Speedway in the Fan Zone Midway area. I'll be there on Saturday, but we're doing a big meetup at 1:30 on Sunday. So if you're there, be sure to stop by and say hi. We should have some cool groovy swag to give away as well. Really appreciate Roxor supporting the show and giving us some space to work out at Darlington this weekend. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Now, we've got a lot to discuss today. I want to begin with the NASCAR Hall of Fame. As of the time I'm recording and editing this, the NASCAR Hall of Fame voting panel is selecting this year's inductees, or I guess the class of 2023 inductees. Two will come in off the modern era ballot, one will come in off the pioneer era ballot, and let me just say this, Matt Kenseth should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The Hall of Fame committee basically moved his eligibility up by a year so that he wouldn't have to go up against Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus next year. They did this so he could go in on the first ballot. He's a two-time Daytona 500 winner, a Cup Series champion, 39-time winner. By all accounts, by all measures, he is a first ballot NASCAR Hall of Famer, especially when you put him up against all the other drivers and crew chiefs on the modern era ballot. But I've seen some surprising tweets this morning from people that I think we all greatly respect in the racing community, including Dale Earnhardt Jr., who tweeted his picks for the Hall of Fame: Larry Phillips, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Herschel McGriff. Look, of course I respect Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s picks, and really everyone on the modern era, and even the pioneer era ballot, I think to an extent, deserves a shot at the Hall of Fame. I think they're all right there on the cusp of being Hall-worthy. But I'm sorry, when we look at the names on the modern era ballot, and yes, I'm a big Matt Kenseth fan, and yes, this is recency bias to an extent, there is no way you can argue that Matt Kenseth is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, his stats are far better than Jeff Burton's, far better than Ricky Rudd's. Carl Edwards, if he'd raced for longer, probably would have surpassed Kenseth, at least in wins, but he didn't. The only guy I could argue over Matt Kenseth is Kirk Shelmerdine, who won 4 championships as Dale Earnhardt's crew chief. I'd put Kenseth in, Shelmerdine in, and I'd probably go Ralph Moody, although honestly on that pioneer era ballot, I feel like it's really tight between Moody, Herschel, McGriff. You can even make an argument for Sam Ard. AJ Foyt's the only one there that I'm like, I don't know about AJ Foyt. He's a tremendous race car driver across the board, but NASCAR, I don't know. Brad Keselowski, a NASCAR champion, tweeted Matt Kenseth, Harry Hyde, and Ralph Moody. Respectable picks there. Again, it's real tight. I think all those names deserve very serious consideration, but to me, Matt Kenseth is clearly above the vast majority of names on that list. So if he is not voted into the Hall of Fame this afternoon, I will be seriously disappointed. Apparently, the results will be revealed tonight on NASCAR Race Hub, so we'll know before we go to bed who next year's Hall of Fame class will be. Now, shifting gears somewhat, but still talking about history, this is the Throwback Week. Darlington this weekend is the Throwback race. A bunch of teams have revealed their epic throwback schemes. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But I want to talk about one team and their 2 paint schemes right here, right now. Trackhouse continues to outdo themselves. Yesterday, they revealed that Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain will throw back to when NASCAR raced in Japan back in 1998, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Earnhardt Jr. raced 2 variant Coca-Cola paint schemes. Take a look at these beautiful recreations. He's got Daniel Suarez in the red Earnhardt colors. You even see the 99 has been kind of RCR-ified and slanted forward. The old school Coca-Cola racing logo, very accurate to the car Dale Earnhardt raced over 20 years ago. But Ross Chastain's car honestly gets most of the attention in my opinion. The Coca-Cola Polar Bear is back on the hood. This is of course reminiscent of what Dale Earnhardt Jr. raced in that Japan race. Again, the door number font has been changed. It slid forward. This is beautiful. Both of these cars are extremely accurate to the originals that they're throwing it back to. They both have that beautiful 90s retro style and flair. And does this mean Ross Chastain's a Coca-Cola family driver now? When are we gonna get a watermelon flavor of Coca-Cola next? I don't think that'd be very... Anyway, the paint schemes are delicious. I just wanted to give Trackhouse their props. This team has been very bold in all of their wrap designs this season. Trackhouse has really empowered their design team. I believe these schemes were both reimagined by Kyle Sykes. And that's great. I say it all the time, but presentation goes a long, long way. I'm a big fan of those throwback schemes. Again, tomorrow we'll react to pretty much the full slate of throwbacks. Now most of them have been revealed the last couple of days, so I'm excited about that. But just want to give you guys a sneak preview. Those are going to be tough to beat. To take things down a notch, we gotta talk about penalties. Last weekend at Dover, in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series, we saw wheels falling off cars. 4-race suspension for the crew chief, usually for the jackman and tire changer as well, and 3 teams were affected by this penalty. First, Sam Mayer's 1 team was penalized for a wheel coming off in the Xfinity race. That's right, they're still using 5 lug nuts over there, and they had this issue pop up. Taylor Moyer, the crew chief, will be out for the next 4 races. On the Cup Series side of things, AJ Allmendinger's 16 team had a wheel fall off. Remember, at a crucial time, it brought out a caution that really ruined Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman's chances of winning the race. The 16 crew chief is suspended for 4 races, as well as the tire changer and the jackman. I believe that includes the All-Star race. 4 races, not necessarily 4 points paying races, so keep that in mind. And the big one, Denny Hamlin and the 11 team. They had that wheel fall off as they were exiting pit road. Chris Gabehart suspended for 4 races. The jackman and front tire changer were suspended as well, but it's a little confusing because the front tire changer on the roster isn't the one who left the wheel nut loose. Because of JGR's alternate choreography, it was actually the rear tire changer who came around and left that left front loose, so not sure how NASCAR is gonna handle that. I guess they're just going by what's on the roster, but I don't know, doesn't quite seem right. The whole loose wheel situation has been interesting because since this next gen debuted, there have been a few things that have popped up that teams or drivers have largely been able to figure out. Like early on, we had flat tires beaching race cars on the racetrack. Notice that hasn't been happening the last few weeks. In fact, it really hasn't happened since Fontana. I mean, even Kyle Larson blew out 2 tires after spinning at Dover this weekend and managed to at least limp back to pit road. It did cause a little damage, but he made it to pit road. Teams have been able to adapt to many of the curveballs the next gen has thrown at them, but this loose wheel situation is one area where teams do not seem to be improving too much. Many have questioned whether the current penalty system is fair, especially considering that none of these teams are trying to leave the wheel nuts loose. It's not like when they had 5 lug nuts and teams would try to get a faster pit stop and only put like 3 lug nuts on. No, in this case, it's 1 lug nut. Either it's secure, it's on, or it's not. And if it's not, there's no competitive advantage being gained there. Your wheel's probably gonna fall off. You can argue that teams should take their time and be a little more careful and really confirm that the nut is secured into place, but many pit crew members have said that with these guns, with this new system, it's sometimes hard to tell. I'm not experienced enough in this field, but I know Justin Fiedler, I'll link his Twitter thread down below, but he posted a lengthy Twitter thread yesterday. He works on Eric Jones's Cup Series pit crew, and he kind of goes into some of the thought processes right now behind the scenes, what the teams are saying, how they're trying to combat this issue. Pretty interesting. I encourage you to go check it out. Again, wheels coming off these cars, that's a huge safety threat. Big heavy wheels like that, if they get launched by a car, hit by oncoming traffic, that could go over the fence and hit somebody, hurt somebody. So I understand why NASCAR takes it very, very seriously, and I think they should, but 4 race suspensions for the crew chief and 2 crew members, I don't know, maybe there's gonna come a time where that rule changes. We'll see. Again, this has been one key element of the next gen car that doesn't seem to be getting better as the season goes on. It's either stayed the same or arguably gotten worse. I mean, we had a couple wheels fall off this weekend. Now it's the big teams like Joe Gibbs Racing making these mistakes. It's not just the smaller, newer teams that were making mistakes like they were early in the season. It's the big guns now. 2311's had an issue. Joe Gibbs Racing has now had this issue. So keep that in mind. Now lastly, let's end this show on a positive note. So all last week and even throughout the weekend, there were some rumblings and concerns about the future of Dover Motor Speedway. Speedway Motorsports came in, bought the facility. This weekend was the first race under SMI management, and with SMI making a lot of moves in recent years, remember New Hampshire lost a date in recent years and went to Las Vegas. Texas Motor Speedway now hosts the All-Star race and the fall race with its spring race going to COTA. SMI's planning to renovate North Wilkesboro Speedway and Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Now they own Nashville Super Speedway as well. With all this stuff stuff in motion, there was real concern that the future of Dover wasn't looking so hot. Well, it sounds like Dover's futures may have turned for the better after a huge crowd showed up Sunday. And I talked about this in my episode and my live stream I did Sunday, but the crowd Sunday afternoon was one of the best we've seen in recent Dover history. Awesome to see fans in the northeastern United States turn out to the Monster Mile. A shame it got rained out early on, but many of them still came back Monday. And earlier this week, there was an Associated Press article where Mike Birch, who we've had on the show from Speedway Motorsports, talked about the future of Dover and sounded very optimistic. He said, "Nobody has ever looked at making changes to thriving events. If the fans want us to continue to have races here, the racing is good, the support is here, yes, absolutely." Birch explicitly noted the impressive attendance on Sunday and the impressive attendance for a Monday afternoon race. On top of that, Dover Motor Speedway president Mike Tatoen, hope I'm saying that right, said that he believes NASCAR will be racing at Dover for a long period of time. That's good news again for any fans up in the Northeast. It's been tough sledding for our fans up there. Pocono's lost one of its dates in recent years. I mentioned New Hampshire's lost a date in recent years. Even Dover has lost one date in the last couple of years. Business is business. It sucks. It is what it is, but I'm glad fans showed up to Dover and got to see on Monday at least one of the better Dover races in recent memory. Responses to my episode Monday were very positive. I saw Jeff Gluck's Was It a Good Race poll ranked it as like the second best Dover race ever. Don't know if I go that far, but it was a very, very good Dover race. Very eventful, like I said. So hopefully that's enough to bring Dover back next year and maybe for many, many years to come. I hope SMI likes what they saw, and it sounds like they do. Mike Birch sounded very optimistic. The president of Dover sounded very optimistic. It sounds highly likely Dover will return in 2023 and maybe for years to come. So a little bit of good news, a little glimmer of hope here to end this episode and to wrap up the Dover Motor Speedway weekend. Now all of our attention turns to Darlington. Again, if you're going to be there Sunday, I'll be at the Roxor booth at 1:30. That's a couple hours before the start of the Cup Series race. Be sure to stop by, come say hi, and tomorrow I'll be reacting to all of the throwback schemes. There's a lot of them, and there's some really, really good ones. I've just given you guys a taste. In the meantime, though, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. And as always, a huge shout out to my remarkable Patreon supporters. I truly appreciate your support each and every month. I couldn't do this show without it. I will see you all at Darlington this weekend. Have a fantastic rest of your day, y'all. Thanks for watching.